You think?
I think, yeah.
You're pretty smart, aren't you?
Yeah. Oh, my God. Look what
Uh-huh.
dog drug in,
Oh.
so to speak.
You don't recognize it, don't I like to hear that.
I'm gonna try to talk him into reading Ball State's guitar. I don't
Is he interested in it?
know. I don't know, but I'm sure gonna ask him. How could you
You're
go
just
wrong?
trying to keep her.
How could you go
Maybe
wrong?
you better deny you after this weekend.
What's that?
You ready to go?
Deny you after this weekend.
Nah,
Go ahead.
want nothing to do with IU.
It is hard having a ranked football and basketball team at the same time. Probably the first time ever. But
Yeah.
I need to talk to you after.
Okay.
I'm going to call the Tippecanoe Council meeting to order and begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. First item on the agenda are the minutes from the last meeting.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve the November 12th, 2024 minutes
How
as
about-
written.
How about, that's today.
Today's the 12th.
October 28th.
Yeah, okay,
Second.
that's today.
That's that pretty.
Motion and seconded to approve the minutes from the October 28th meeting. All those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Any amendments to the agenda this evening? Hearing none, this is the first meeting of the month. We'll begin with Board of Works and Safety.
We met today. The first thing we did was not really approve, we kind of did. They're not asking for any street closures, but for the Tipton Trails first turkey trot on November 28th at 9 a.m., we went over the route and talked about maybe in the future how we go about, especially like 5Ks or supporting them if they need public safety assistance. Got a quick update on the cemetery and the park board. Park board, big thing is the trail project's coming to an end, and we're looking at ways to possibly add lighting and benches and flower pots. And as most people know, that Christmas decorations are going up. And then we were supposed to have a planning department, but they were not able to make it. We did have one, I'm gonna get Judy on, non-conforming structure on Jefferson Street off of the alley. It's just been a possible public safety problem. A couple RVs, maybe somebody's campers, people are living in. And I know the police have been out there. So I'm gonna try to get that to Judy ASAP. That's about it.
Very good. Thank you. Cemetery Board.
The report's in your packet. 2 lots sold, $1,400 in one niche at 2, 4 barrels, 3 cremations. There was no meeting, the last one that got canceled, so.
Thank you, Rich. Park Advisory Board.
Park Advisory did meet. It was a relatively short meeting. Diana updated us on some issues at the school that are being resolved. The pool parking lot has been paved. Nate shared that she's looking at how she's going to fund some benches and lighting along the trail. There are a couple of dark spots past the child care facility down the stretch there, that stretch that, that it is pretty dark. So she's working on that. Very short discussion about the 5-year plan is done.
Yeah.
So that's it. There will be more, I guess, more discussion, I think, later in the meeting.
Very good. Utility Board.
Utility board met last Monday in these chambers. The report is not in your packet, and I don't know why. Did we not get one?
Yeah, it is.
I didn't get one.
He
Okay,
was there.
Yes, you
Um,
did. It's
that's right. I don't need to.
Who's the liaison?
Short meeting. everything's going good with the wastewater pipe coming from 31. The foundation is in out at 28 and 31 for the water tower, and steel should be coming sometime this month. And that was pretty much it.
Very good.
Well, I will also add that next meeting, they're going to have a short meeting. I think it's the 18th. They're having a short meeting, and they are going to
Have a celebration and recognition.
Yes,
recognition
for Barb.
Colonel.
Yes, yes.
Anyone that is
Long
welcome to
time,
have.
right.
Yes.
Longtime member of the city council and utility board.
Correct. Very good. Thank you, Rick. Next on the agenda, just an item under new business that's not necessarily on your agenda. As we make a transition to PERF, which is the Public Employee Retirement Fund, one thing that we're going to have to change, we're not going to remove the opportunity for the employees to contribute into a fund that's managed by Edward Jones, by extension of the city, but we're going to stop the contribution, the match portion of that. Again, we're not going to take it away, so they could still on their own merit contribute to this fund, but one thing we do need to get at least approval from the council to authorize Tammy to make some of that transition with that. Empower is the vendor that we utilize for that. So seeking approval from the council to authorize Tammy to make those changes with that plan so we can discontinue the match yet keep the opportunity in existence for employees to contribute to it. Any questions on that?
So they will be able to still contribute. The city will not match.
Currently, we're keeping why we don't want to close or discontinue it is because there could be an opportunity in the future where we want to reactivate it with a match. So we want to keep it in place. That way it doesn't go away completely. But yeah, it would keep it available to them to contribute to. We just wouldn't match starting in 2025 as we onboard PERF.
I'll make a motion that we allow Tammy to do that.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to authorize Tammy to make the necessary changes with the 457 plan.
And for, yes.
I have one more question. So, because you've taken the lead on this, is there any employee that's, or I shouldn't say any because there's other people doing one. Is there a strong contingent of employees that are just don't understand or maybe super against PERF?
Not from the meetings I've now met with every employee within the city of Tipton, and those who were not part of PERF, which was every employee full-time who's not in public safety, expressed a desire, unprompted, a desire to onboard into PERF.
It doesn't count utility because they were already.
Correct. Those are
So we're
still
talking-
managed differently, but the utility frankly has done a good job with some retirement offerings. They also got their information late. Tammy turned in information on behalf of the city and utility at the same time, and the utility's information unfortunately got lost in that communication. So they just got their information back maybe 2 weeks ago, whereas we've had ours since August to determine our next steps.
So we're talking about street department and parks
Street,
department.
administrative,
Street,
golf,
City offices,
Golf.
or, and
public state, or
there's a
police
few
has
police,
Debbie,
not-
Paige.
yeah.
So there's in total maybe 20, low 22 employees total that impacts in the city.
That was it.
So we do have a motion and a second to authorize Tammy to make those necessary changes with the retirement plan.
Who has a second? I'm sorry.
Rick, Rippy. All those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. No other items under new or old business. Under mayor's report, just have a few things. One that has, and Tammy introduced the communications that come from other communities. One that has popped up, and likely because of meetings. The city of Tipton has not experienced this, but it is code of conduct, best practices, rules and guidelines that govern public comment. Again, the city is not having an issue, which is probably the best time to introduce any rules or regulations. The idea moving forward is I might just try to glean from the feedback that's happening within an email thread, what some communities are and are not entertaining, and share it with the council. If you guys want to entertain adopting those, again, those are best practices. To be very clear, we are not having a problem. I feel like we have had good exchanges and public comment, but what I don't want us to do is wait until we do maybe have an issue and then we're acting reactively. So I'll just share those with you and then take your advice on next steps. But a lot of chatter is happening in that space, in that email thread. Additionally, on public safety, the building itself, I did meet with both Chief Bittner and Chief Stout. We discussed from the Etica Group feasibility study, they produced a critical improvements list, items within the facility that they deemed critical. We went through that list of priorities. In total, the improvements they estimated would be about $1 million for the critical needs. We, of course, don't have quite that much funding remaining in the GO bond proceeds. So what we're working on now is creating a prioritized list. I'm going to work with some folks that I know have done work like this on a bigger scale to help produce a bid packet. And then from that bid packet, share it with those who were engaged in the project feasibility study for approval, produced to you all for approval to send out the bid. And hopefully we'll get that advertised for proper bid to start the new year. So it's kind of the next steps we're working on at the moment is get all that, I guess, created in a bid packet. Therefore, we can actually get some movement on some critical needs in the facility.
I have a question for you.
Yep.
The GO bond that the last council had passed, how much was it for at that point?
Roughly 1.1, 1.2 million.
So most of it is still there at this point. There's not been much spent out of it. I'm curious.
I don't know
much we
exact
have now.
balance.
of it.
I wouldn't say there's most, but
700, 800, I think.
I say 6 or 7.
I think the last time I looked, it was almost 800, but
So next on my report, downtown next steps, as you all are familiar with, stoplights have come down. We've done the bump outs to improve walkability within the downtown. So next steps that we're working on now is getting some more decorative stop signs. Some of that priority will be to actually move the stop signs closer so they're more visible. We've also acknowledged there might be a need to enlarge the size of the stop signs and increase visibility. Painting is still yet to be done. One thing that we're working on right now is just weather. Because of the project in this timeline, what we don't want to do is apply during weather that's not conducive. We still have a little bit of a window here this fall, so we're trying to work at least to get the stop bars and parking spots striped. We may not, just because of the truck that the crew from Midwest has. It's busy on other projects, so we may not get the center line striped, but at least we can get the stop bars and parking spots. That'd be a big improvement to downtown. And then the large signage arms that are still remaining, those are on the docket. They'll probably be removed probably within the next few weeks. The original expectation was to get those removed when the stoplights were removed, but the crew was kind of tied up in other projects, and it took them a little longer than they expected to get the stoplights down.
Where the old electrical boxes and stuff were, is that this year? Or?
Yeah, so actually, with us is Dylan Dietrich, the new municipal services superintendent. He and I actually chatted about that today. So he's going to work on maybe some short-term solutions with the old bases for the stoplights. We think that's probably a pretty easy solution. Where the electrical panel boxes were, that's probably more invasive. So we might need to find a contractor to come in and remove those bases. But at least we'll be able to get the old anchor bolts cut out and level flush with the surface, so where we can remove the cones and the surface is now easily maneuverable. Another thing I've been working on with our PR team is a slide deck of sorts for the approved budget. Most of this is just communication with the community on the approved budget. the idea as we move forward will be about this time next year, we can actually do some review on what was the previous year's budget, how does it relate to the next year's, and then also acknowledging where the taxpayer dollars have been invested in the community, all just part of increasing communication and transparency. We did get official notification that our DORA was approved from ATC. We're working on some promotion regarding DORA. We don't plan for it to be active until December 7th. This was with some feedback from Main Street. The idea being we don't maybe want the first event to be 'tis the season. We've got some growing pains. We're trying to figure out how all this works. Even the state legislature acknowledges that there's some things to be overcome and cleaned up. So I agreed with the sentiment and move forward with December 7th, which I believe is Ticket to Tipton event that has been spearheaded by Hortons. So I think that's probably a good starting point. And in that time, it allows us we're still getting some of the window clings and we'll need to get those installed. So again, spoke with Dylan today and talked about the installation of those signage in and around downtown. I did discuss and meet with Tipton Arts Commission at their invitation. And one thing I did bring up that's been in conversation, at least with Council Member Amon, I've asked them to start the year 2025 and report out to the Board of Works, just as a way to communicate what things are they working on, interested in, and seeking. And then the last is December 9th is our first council meeting in December. I actually have Mayor's Institute that evening. So I've called Council President Nate Kring. He's going to lead that meeting, but just offer you all awareness that I'll be absent at that December 9th meeting. So with that, we'll move on to resolutions and ordinances. The first resolution, 2024-34, a resolution to transfer within the general fund, mayor's budget. As the last note of my update is transferring from legal within our department to training and instruction.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2024-34.
Second.
So a motion and a second to approve resolution 2024-34. All those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. The next is ordinance 2024-15, an ordinance amending ordinance 2024-09, the maximum salaries, wages, and other compensation for police officers, firefighters, and all other employees of the city of Tipton for the year 2024 on first reading. This just makes two adjustments, one for the interim position that Mark Clark served in for the street department, and the second is a consideration for Philip Beaver, who's been filling in as the interim director of golf. It just, I guess it defines the compensation for serving in that interim. So the compensation as proposed is $925 per pay. So both will be based on how many weeks they served in that capacity and they get paid out accordingly.
I move we approve ordinance 2024-15.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve ordinance 2024-15 on first reading. All those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Last ordinance for this evening, ordinance 2024-16. It's an ordinance establishing a Department of Parks and Recreation Board and repeal all other ordinances in conflict therewith on first reading.
On this here, do we have, or can we do it later to where, because I know they can be a taxing entity,
Mhm.
but to where they have to come in front of the council to be able to establish a tax?
The council is the fiscal body for the city of Tipton, so you are the approving authority to
Okay. So it
offer.
won't be like the library where they can just do the tax or whatever at that time?
Well, even at the library, and I may lean on Tipton County Council member Joe Van Bever in the audience, the county council does have approving authority of their tax rate.
Okay.
So again, you as a fiscal body, this agency or board is a city specific,
So they cannot do it without the council?
correct?
approval.
You would have to allow them to set up the tax rate
Okay,
for the park board.
Another question I had, I seen in there where they said after you get the park board established, that they will assign a superintendent.
Mhm.
Is that like a role that Diane stays in, or how does that work? Or can they just go in and say, hey, we're replacing everybody, this, that, or the other? I was kind of curious about that.
Yeah, within the state statute 36-10-3, there's an actual clause further, I think it's further down, that makes a special delineation for cities that says if this position, the park superintendent, is an appointed position, it will remain an appointed position.
Okay.
So in city and towns and counties, the park board would have the
So it will stay
nominating
there.
or hiring authority, but within cities, they've made a special clause that it remains an appointed position.
Okay, cool.
I'll make a motion, we adopt ordinance 2024-16 on the first reading.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve ordinance 2024-16 on first reading. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries.
Just to make sure, Ken and Tim. Okay.
Now we're at claims.
I move we approve for payment claims 177436 through 177952 in the amount of $5,066,186.37.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve claims totaling $5,066,186.37. All those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. We are now to petitions, comments, and memorials.
Thank you for inviting me. And several things on my list, but I'm gonna leave it down here. I'd like to discuss baseball fields we used to have. I run into a lot of people that give me their thoughts, whatever, on it. And I guess what I'm trying to figure out, I thought I knew the answer, but if there was actually funding to do that project, and they were torn apart, demoed, whatever you call it, I don't care what you call it. You know, I keep hearing people say, yeah, there was money, went somewhere, no, there wasn't money, whatever. And actually, a week ago today, former Mayor Dozel came to me, did not like the post I made on Facebook saying, I don't believe there was ever any funding to continue from tearing it apart. So, I guess tonight, I would like to know if you'd like to share it, if there was funding, what that amount was, where it was, or how it was labeled, or if there was a plan to pay for this or not, or whatever, because he asked me about that, and I took him up on his offer to go find out. So if that's something you can share with us, I'd appreciate it, and while you do that, I'm gonna sit down.
Okay. Certainly, as you mentioned, a debated topic. From my review, and not to put anybody else in the spot, there is no special designated funding within the 2024 budget specific to baseball.
So if that would be the case, then anyone who says anything that funding went somewhere else, that just wouldn't be true, but if there wasn't
Correct.
funding to begin with, it didn't go anywhere.
Again, there's funding that could be available, be through CCD or other capital monies in the park budget, but there's no monies that were specified for the baseball project specifically.
Right, and that's all I was discussing, if there was money set aside for it, because like I said, Mayor Dozel asked me about it, or didn't like my comment, and I just thought the best place to do would be to come here and
I'll shed some light because there's a few things I think. I don't think it's fair to criticize Mayor Dozel or Mayor Schmicker, frankly, at this point. it is what it is, and we have to move past it and find a solution. I do think that there was funding that Mayor Dozel maybe had an edit, and I know he was gonna request some movement of funds from the council, but elections have consequences, and at that time, I know I didn't feel comfortable as a council, maybe saddling the next mayor, because the election was or actually almost decided, to move money from the general fund, or I think some was maybe an ARPA. We probably could have done it. It would have definitely strapped some funds very thin. But I do agree with Keegan, or Mayor Schmicker, that there was no, okay, 200,000 from here, 500,000, 200 from here to make the total. I was never under the impression that that was the case. So as a Board of Works member last year, and Rick, if you have anything else, but at this point, again, I come back to it is what it is. This council has approved 2.6 million for acquisition and improvement costs for a baseball diamond. So I just rehashing and trying to throw people on the bus, and I'm not sure I don't think it's good for the community.
Yeah.
I'm just not interested in it. So
Since I was interrupted, may I finish my comments?
I was giving you a
Yes.
response, Bob, but
Yes.
if you feel you were interrupted, I apologize.
May I finish my comments?
Please.
So to address what you just said, I know you guys didn't provide any funding. Whether or not you should have taken it out of any of the places that you said, no, that's not my decision. I'm here because former Mayor Dozel told me that there was funding set aside, and he did not like my comment that I said there was no funding set aside. He wasn't telling me where you could get the funding from, what the possibilities, all the different choices. That wasn't the very short discussion. The discussion was there was funding set aside, and I just want to know, and I think Mayor Keegan has answered that there was no funding set aside for that. I'm just trying to set a record straight. I'm not rehashing anything. I did not start the conversation with Mayor Dozel. He did. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Rick?
Hi, Rick.
Good evening, Rick Chandler, 403 Oak Street. Kind of strange to be on this side of the table, but we'll give it a try. I did see one thing that's concerned me, both as a citizen and also as a former member of this council, that I wanted to bring to light. Still seeing a lot of trucks coming through our downtown, in particular Venture Trucking. I don't know if they think that they're above our truck ordinance or not, but what concerns me with that is the city just spent several thousands of dollars to redo Jefferson Street in an effort to make it last until the funding comes through with the grant in 27 or 28 for the complete redo of our downtown area. The council previously took actions both by establishing a fund to protect the monies meant to maintain that stretch of roadway and a truck ordinance to help protect that stretch of roadway. And I'm just disappointed because I don't feel like we're doing our taxpayers justice by not providing adequate enforcement of this ordinance. And I understand that the police department has limited resources. I understand that they can be stretched to their limit. I've got some thoughts and ideas on that I was openly discussing back in early 23. I'm happy to share. I'm happy to collaborate on that. I'm happy, like I said, at the end of my term, to do anything I can to help this administration be successful and to help work for our citizens. But I just have grave concerns about whether that stretch of roadway is going to last until the grant arrives without additional enforcement, particularly maybe even a phone call to this particular trucking company so that they better understand they need to abide by the laws put on the books and that they need to be mindful that our city owns that stretch of road and our taxpayers are responsible for its maintenance. So any attention that could be given there, I would greatly appreciate.
Thanks, Rick.
Thanks, Rick.
I just have one question. When you were talking about the park board and did I understand correctly, there is a 5-year plan now done?
There's one being worked on to turn in. There's a date of November 15th that needs to be complied with. And then that's for draft. And I believe it's April 15th is the date in the spring. So in between those two dates, there's communication back with DNR. They provide you feedback, and then the formal submission is April 15th. And I believe that's April 15th, 2025.
And that 5-year plan covers the ADA issues.
Correct. As a piece of that 5-year plan, DNR has requested an ADA transition plan be a part of that.
And then I have one more question. Is there any update between you and the county with the old, I can't even remember Chrysler's new name now. The old Chrysler building.
Stellantis?
Yeah.
I do know the property has been purchased, has moved through closing. There's still yet to be any formal notification on who purchased the property, and that's all that I'm allowed to speak on at the moment.
Okay. And one last thing, have the new owners of the Needler store
Mhm.
come to you?
No, I did reach out to them. I have not received any response, but yet I do. I've at least exchanged one email or sent one email to them, just trying to validate and then extend an open invitation to have a meeting.
Yeah, my concern is the chatter that was on Facebook in the last 2 weeks about people shopping and getting inferior, unusable vegetables, fruits, fresh
Mhm.
stuff, period. So I just would ask if you would touch base with them
Sure.
again. I think we need to be very honest with them about the issues that this community has had in that grocery store in the past. Not that, I think our expectations from Needlers were greater than what they, our expectations were greater, not necessarily unfounded. Let me put it
Sure.
that way. That they, down the road, us being last,
Mhm.
could not commit to. And I think it would be good if there was a conversation that, is there any way to not repeat that again? I
Mhm.
mean, this is a second grocery store. I've only lived here 11 years, 2 grocery stores in 11 years. For a little town, that's a lot of
Trevor?
movement
Sure.
for a company that's supposed to be helping to support, and we're supporting them.
Yep. I'll reach back out to them. Thank you.
Okay. And I believe that's it.
Marsh was
Thank
here
you.
how many
Thank
years?
you.
Last, I was gonna, Dylan, if you could come up to the podium. I just want to introduce you to the council, the community. With us this evening, and just make it very brief. Dylan Dietrich joins us as a new superintendent in municipal services. Dylan most recently was employed with NDOT, brings with him a plethora of contacts through NDOT, both at the state, Greenfield, and the local substation with NDOT. So we're excited to have him. Today was his first day. So we certainly want to welcome him and then introduce him to the council. So Dylan, I appreciate you being here this evening and excited to welcome you into the Tipton family.
Get those,
Yeah, definitely welcome.
get those leaves picked up.
We're working on it.
No, I appreciate those leaves on. They're on my house every week.
Even if it's at 7:00 in the
In the
morning.
Yeah.
I would like to mention something, actually I'm not out of place for it. During this season, Tim's won partners up at the police station for toys for the kids of our city. It's nothing to do with my store, it's to collect toys for the city, local kids and stuff. So if anybody wants to bring toys by during the season, drop off, police officers will be out front to pick them up, and you don't even have to get out of the car, just hand them out to a policeman, sheriff, or a police officer. It's for the FOP that does that event, so I wanted to mention that, because it's good for our kids.
And food for thought, I think I suggested it earlier when we were talking, and I apologize to Mr. Rippey for even bringing this up, but I'm at a point where I think we need to go electronic, whether that's laptops or whatever. It's so much easier to transfer documents and all that kind of thing. I know Mr. Rippey's,
I think you're out of your mind.
he's jumping up and down because he doesn't, but I think we should think about it.
I can't even get my emails on my phone, let alone
With that, I would accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor of adjournment signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
I got flights to take down.
I know you did.
Yes, ma'am. I only see you on Facebook these days.
I know, look at you. Look at you,
I'm trying.
I know.